So I thought Article 71 was closed.
Wait.
I think it was clearly defined.
You are a journalist. Find out that how are they treated. So their salary and the payment, you may find them working in the ministry, but their salary, their condition, and everything is being paid under the Office of Government Machinery.
Anyway,
what is the issue?
Motivation.
It is the motivation. Right? Why will you have a technical advisor to a ministry? He's not being paid by the ministry, and he has to come under office. There are issues deeper.
Thing is becoming
are you getting it? So that's why you will find people who even hang on at the presidency and others. How are they paid? Check their salaries and check the salary that is being paid at the ministry.
Well, as you know,
I'll leave it at that when I have my turn.
Okay, all right.
Then
so
you have had your turn.
No.
You see,
you
know, the more you try to understand it, it's the nature of governments almost every part of the world. You know, governments create phantom, what I call structures, and then try to, as it were, appropriate funds out of that. See, if you look at you are wondering why the Ministry of Aviation PA may be paid from there, but the Ministry of Aviation is under the Office of Government Machinery. Is there Ministry for Planning? All of this, Minister for Inner City and Zongo Development.
Yes, that's what I know.
So these are all under the presidency, which forms part of the Office of Government Machinery. You see, what you should be even interesting also is that you should know that the Department of Parks and Gardens, Ghana Health Service, Controller Accountant General, staff that have been attached to the presidency, all constitute what is called the Office of Government Machinery. I mean, your government at the Office of Government Machinery is actually having oversight of people who are into parks and gardens. I mean, growing flowers. And the Mahama, it even used to supervise poultry, egg sellers as well. I mean, that's the kinds of thing you find thrown at the Office of Government Machinery. Is this amorphous entity where if you have created an entity you have no use of, you just dump it there? It's the only reason why you're having all these number of people who have no clearly defined roles, right? That's what you're finding. See, when I went to Cote d'Ivoire and I was using the bathroom, when I got to the airport's bathroom, two gentlemen greeted me. Bonjour, monsieur. I said, bonjour. I thought they were cleaners, but they greeted me and then pointed me to the doorway, the corridor. Along the corridor, there's a gentleman who also met me. Bonjour. I said, bonjour. Then he pointed me to another part of the urinal. When I got to the urinal, there's another gentleman standing there who said, bonjour. Then he pointed me to the urinal. Then I asked myself, how are these people being paid? Because if you want to understand how this matter has played out, it's a perfect analogy of people who are not needed but are performing duplicatory functions. Because all these ministries really, as Honorable Abans suggests, if they were to be standalone, well, maybe it could have been more. So maybe we should be grateful for small mercies. But we don't need them. Ministry for Inner City and Zongo can easily be attached to Ministry of Local Government. Just as we have MNE, well, maybe every ministry has an MNE. But if you understand that the president wants to have a hold on which ministers are doing well or not, maybe we can excuse that ministry. Ministry for Public Procurement, Ministry for Business Development, that can be subsumed under trade and industry. I don't want us to be having conversations we've had before about the needlessness or otherwise of these ministries. But I'm just submitting to you that the reasons we are seeing all of this is because we've had a very bloated government, which is rather worrying. Look, we've been talking about Trump. That is probably one of the most erratic and if not dangerous presidents in the world. But there's something he did when he came to office. He made sure the White House, as we speak right now, has under 300 staff. In fact, in his first quarter, he saved He saved the American taxpayer $5 million from the Obama era. So everywhere you turn, people are trying to cut numbers. I am worried because if you look at the budget that's gone to the Office of Government Machinery under this government, There's a lot more money. When Mahama was living, in fact, when Mahama was in office between 2012 and 2016, the budgets that the Office of Government Machinery was receiving were actually quite high. But when Mahama was leaving office in 2016, he had spent almost 1 billion Ghana cedis, and he overran that budget by 50 million Ghana cedis. In some years, in 2012 and 2013, Mahama of budget by, in some regard, million cedis and 99 million. Now, when the MPP came into office in 2017, they ballooned that figure to 1.5 billion Ghana cedis. As we speak, we don't know what were the overruns in 2017. In 2018, they've allocated 3 billion. That's 2 billion more than Mahama had to the Office of Government Machinery. And you are seeing the results in these things that you can't define. That's what you are seeing. So for me, anytime we talk about the issues around waste and corruption is not just stealing money, putting your hands in the kitty. It's also actually officializing waste. This is a clearest example of an officialized waste, really. So for me, look, someone will say that people need jobs, so let's give them more jobs. You know, I always give you the analogy of Milton Friedman, who went to China and then in the 70s and saw Chinese engineers, road constructors constructing roads, and had given shovels to Chinese workers. And they said, but there's new technology now to build roads. We have tractors. You know what the Chinese engineer told him? He said, well, we want to achieve full employment. That's why we are employing more people with shovels. Then Milton Friedman said, in that case, then give them spoons, so that you employ more people to do their work. If anybody gives you a justification that because we've had more people and more ministries is the reason why we're having these bloated numbers, I suggest and I submit, then probably create more employment by giving a lot more people, so that what I saw in Cote d'Ivoire, which is rather funny, we'll probably see a lot more here. There's nothing sensible about this arrangement, and it's only making Mahama look like a saint, sadly. Because you see, the very things we talked about, the bloated government and the waste, is now being officialized, and we need to speak up about these things. I've heard some people in government say that, well, these were people who have been employed previously, public service, so they shouldn't do anything. But the least you see, I know a lot of the people there, they are party people.
And a lot of them are social media activists. You see them on social media full time.
And they have been assigned
so
roles like Director of Communications, and it's not as if they are communicating anything important anyway, right? And it's worrying. I mean, what is this whole list of IT specialists,
liaison photographer,
technical
lady in waiting, technical officers?
Lady in waiting sounds aristocratic. I can understand that. I mean, if a lady is waiting, and people should not confuse it to mean a moesha. But the lady in waiting actually means really that clearly someone is doing some good job, right? But it sounds so crazy. I'm sorry. This is not what we were asking for. And you see, these are the hallmarks of having an unplanned policy guideline programs. That's why when we were asking for quantification of political promises, people thought we were mad, because we knew that we'll get to this stage, you see. So for me, I'm a bit worried, and I think we should be dealing with these matters in a manner that we shouldn't really. So the real deal is the Office of Government Machinery. If we want to fight corruption and waste in this country, we say start from the presidency.
Very well.
Because that's where everything, all this procurement shenanigans will be happening there anyway.
Very well. Let me go to Sydney. Sydney, the list of presidential.
Meanwhile, he has the buffalo.
The list of presidential staffers was released yesterday. At least we saw yesterday, 998, almost 1,000 people as presidential staffers at the presidency. Others have suggested that it could be more. How does it come to you, first of all? And I want to just oppose that against what people who are sympathetic to this regime, people like Professor Amwakoba and co said when Mahama announced his list at the time of 678 staffers at the presidency. He felt that, quote, the Mahama administration should slim down the government, because the smaller the government, the less money we spend on government. And this man, a couple of months ago, announced his intention to be national chairman of the MPP. I don't know where that ambition stands now. These are people who criticize the last government for having a bloated government. Now the new government came. We saw 110 ministers. Now we are seeing a staffers list of 998. What does that leave us? Close to 1,000.
1,000.
Just too short of 1,000.
Yes. What does that leave us, Sidney?
How many should there be?
I mean, there's no number, but
why?
The argument is
so all of modest. So all of you who are talking plenty and arguing, you don't know what the number should be?
No, I mean, there should be no. I mean, even ministers. We are told that the president can appoint as many ministers as he deems fit, people who can help him deliver on his promises, and that's what the president has argued in the past.
So how many should there be?
We're looking at modesty. The argument has been around modesty.
Does modesty breed efficiency?
I don't know, Sidney.
All right. Have we researched the internet to see whether there are any guidelines? Maybe there's a template that we can apply to the levels of government staffing in a country. So maybe Imani has not done us justice on this particular topic.
As far as I'm concerned, there's no template. I mean, there's no template.
Latvia hasn't got anything.
Neither has Lithuania.
Neither has Lithuania.
Nor Kenya.
And no Bosnia Herzegovina.
Well, nobody has done that.
Oh well, maybe then we should do that before we start. We start criticizing.
There's no question about requesting those kinds of analysis. I mean, we are also benchmarking, really, isn't it?
You see,
of previous administrations.
I don't like big government. Yeah. I think that big government is a wasteful resource. I think we can do a lot more with less if we just, look more at our internal procedures and the efficiency of using more modern systems. We can probably trim down the number of people at the customs and the GRA by half if we did a lot more electronic payments and analysis. It's one of those no-brainers, which after all these years we are still sitting down and thinking through issues. The problems we are having with the Controller and Accountant General can probably be resolved if we did a little more electronic processing and putting a lot more checks, which the computer is more capable of doing than we are as individuals, as persons. I am not an expert in government. I've never been in government before. I've never run government before. All I know is where I have worked in my capacity as a controller, staffing has always been a key thing in the equation of costs, and I have always focused on the level of staffing and jobs, who's doing what and how efficient are we and how can we do it better or less, how can we trim down if we have to, or create other avenues for other persons to work. So 998, I don't have a clue as to whether it is the right number, and to use previous persons' numbers, I would have to ask the question. So if Kufuor did how many, 600 and something? Is that what Kufuor did?
Yes, 672.
672.
74, you said.
All right, 672, 674. There's maybe that difference of 2 there we can add to Nana Kufuor's government to make it 1,000. But if Kufuor did 670 odd, was that an efficient government? Did everything work perfectly well? Was it the best way to run the government? Does the evidence tell us that we had the most efficient system or the optimal efficient system with 600? In which case, Mahama's 700 and something odd would have been also very wasteful, because then he should have been able to do it with 670 something, and he went up another 300 and what, I don't know, I've forgotten the number now. Mahama did 700 and what?
707.
707. So he added some 37, 38, maybe 40 people to it. And then the thing is, are we actually comparing like for like? I was listening to Aban as he was speaking, and he's saying there seems to be additional portfolios that have been included in the current numbers at the Akufo-Addo government. So first of all, we need to be, if we are going to do a comparative study, but we don't seem to be doing a comparative study. We are giving a judgmental analysis, and we are just saying on the back of it that 998 is too many.
It's actually a lot of waste.
Well, but too many, I don't know. Oh, you can chip in.
No. He wants a substantive time to see his notes. So just finish and we'll go to
brought plenty notes to talk about 998 people.
No, he's been making notes while
he has a copy of everybody's CV.
But see, have you seen the list though?
He has a list.
Me, I've glanced the list and it's of no interest to me. Oh. It doesn't make any difference to me who they've included there and who they haven't included. I saw some people. I saw some parks and gardens people inside there. Are there not parks and gardens people there? People who are cutting the lawn and all kinds of things too. That one too. You see, if we are to be academic about it, when you're talking about presidential staffing, all right, are we talking about staff who service the presidency or staff who work around the presidency? Or like Abba was saying, all ministries that have been included in as part of the president's portfolio, everybody there, which means that it will include the drivers as well, exactly. and those who carry the brief bags from the car park into the office. They too, we are going to add them. And everything. So I think that.
Let me just give some background. There was a time when the Ghana Education Service had more drivers than teachers.
Yes.
Yeah, you know it. Yeah, I mean you can have that type of compensation, but you see, when you look again at the critical list of the Ghana Education Service, the teachers at the time, we were quibbling really over the quality of teachers and the numbers that we have. But there was a time that they had more drivers on their payroll than teachers, and those raise questions about efficiency. So I mean, I'm sure that's in the light. That's the light in which this conversation is.
So is it a value for money analysis, or is it just a quantitative analysis?
No, I mean,
I think it's both.
Given what this administration said in the past when they were in opposition, and what the situation is now, and the fact that the people here and their designations appear like it's
and it's not clearly defined.
Exactly. So it appears people are just walking around and getting paid by the taxpayer. That's the whole concern.
So it's a value for money issue.
Yes, a value for money issue as well.
Well, then if it's a value for money issue, it's a different story. Then it means that the interrogation and the discussion has to be a lot more intense. Because I would say that if it's a value for money issue, show me how many of them, what their salaries are, how much we are paying them. Because it's not just the number, it's how much it's costing us to maintain that number as well.
Very well.
And that might probably be an even more frightening picture. Because when you do that and you see exactly how much it has bloated, then you'll understand. But you can't.
But Sydney, the Office of Government Machinery budget in 2017 was allocated 1.5 billion.
Nice.
This year's 3 billion.
Yes, and maybe that gives that buffers what Aban was saying, that we have added a lot more portfolios. All right, but this is Akufo-Addo's style. All right, this is what he is setting out to do. He clearly has no problem with big government. But he likes big government. He has big programs. All right, he has big programs.
But shouldn't the taxpayer complain? Is a complaint not just? It's not just. It's not a justified complaint.
Well, that's what we are doing now. We are complaining, and if he listens to us and he's mindful of what we are saying, and he thinks he can trim it down further, and that it will have it will have some kind of political impact, he should do so. If not, and he thinks that we just don't understand what he's trying to do, and at the end of the day, all right, he will get his work done and done efficiently, and even exceed our expectations
and make up for the expenditure, or maybe what might have been spent on these people. Then that's fine, right?
Yes, it's value for money.
Very well.
So if he has 110 ministers and the efficiency within his execution rises exponentially, then we have success. But he will be judged based on his programs and his policies, and that's what it's all about. Which is why we voted him in and we voted somebody else out.
Yes.
So for me, let's not be too hasty, but we still have to look at what Latvia and Lithuania had done. Yeah, before we
very well. So Kojoga, I mean, I'm coming to you.
It's an interesting man on this issue. You know, the funny thing about Sydney is that when he chooses to make comparisons with highly effective examples, he makes them. In this case, he's jabbing me because I was the one who brought Latvia and Lithuania into the picture. I know. I know he's talking about.
You know, the argument is made that these people are not necessarily going to be at the Flagstaff House. There's a the Jubilee House. So there's a Peduasi Lodge. There's a castle. There are regional residences. There's the presidency annex and a whole lot of places. So it's not as if all these people are going to be walking about at the Jubilee House. So there's clearly some job for them to do.
Who says so? Who says so?
No, but that's the fact. All these
Ministry of Business. Ministry of Business Development. Do they have a ministry? Do they have a ministry?
But they are under the office of the president.
And do they have a director? Do they have administrative class?
They should have some staff they work with.
Wait. You see, let's put it in context. Let's put it in context, then we get the argument. Why should there be a Presidential Office Act? What is the underpinning? What is the reason why they would decide that let's have an act to regulate what happens at the presidential office? Then we could have employed any amount of people. 2,000, because I have a vision. It's ambitious. I want to let me have 2,000 people at the office of the president so that they can work.
But the act doesn't put a limit on the number of people who can be employed.
Yes, that's why. So the reason why the act comes in from 1993 is to get to know the people who work at the office of the president, to get to know the people who the president can appoint as his advisors. And that's why it makes it imperative that you submit this list to Parliament.
But it has been submitted.
Wait. If you're saying that if the number is large, that's why I disagree with you. If the number is large and government is efficient, and my simple question is, if I decide I become the president today and I decide I want 3,000 people as staffers.
But does the Constitution put a limit?
No, it doesn't put a limit. Well, but what is reasonable? What is the job function? You have seen duplication of job functions here.
Yes.
Positions,
that's true.
Duplication here. The issue also is that how much do we spend on these people? How much do we spend? The reason why people are crying that this is large, this is huge, is because the president himself has said that I'm in the office to protect public purse. If you are to protect public purse, and during your tenure, the public purse expenditure is flying out of the roof, can't people ask questions? Why should it be? Because it is expected that if you come in and say, look, there was waste, we were spending too much. In previous administration, there were hang-ons and others. I am coming in to make sure that I protect the purse and there will be value for money. Now, if you are going to get 3 billion for Office of Government Machinery, it just goes to tell you that the purse that you want to protect is going out of.
Yes, but to be fair, some new ministries, I don't know whether to call them ministry, but some ministries have been created and they've been placed at the presidency. So Ministry of Planning, Ministry of Monitoring and Evaluation, Procurement, and all those are new creations and new additions, and are the office of the presidency.
Ago, the senior minister's office needed some 6 million, and they didn't give him.
Yeah.
Austerity, maybe good use of money, if you like.
So
no, I'm just saying that. So there was a reason why probably that budget was not sanctioned.
Okay.
Now,
and which is good.
Which is good, because then they probably realize that
restricting a budget allocation and release is not necessarily good. It's not necessarily good.
Yeah, but
if you want to get a program going and you under provide for that particular program, you under budget for it and you deprive it.
You shoot yourself in the
foot.
You shoot yourself in the foot by
everything is not.
I think the leadership of Parliament gave at the time was that the rules for the special minister's rule didn't merit all the things that he wanted the money for.
Very well.
That was rightly.
I just wanted to land. Then Honorable conclude. We'll move to the next issue. I must also state that we'll have an early bow again today because the match between West Bromwich Albion and Liverpool will be on at 11:30. So we'll have to leave a bit before that time.
Now, you'd always find, for me, what is the job function, the position. If it is clearly cut out, we will know what everybody is doing, what is being spent on everybody. 2, look, don't forget, we should not be deceived. Parties will come into government, parties will leave. If this is the way we will go about it, I can tell you that there will always be political appointees. Because if they had been part of the equation that has brought you to that office, they will also expect that you appoint them.
Very well.
You see the civil servants who have been attached to the office. Nobody is saying that they cannot be attached. We are saying that why would some people be working in different ministries and being paid at different places? And it tells you, I'm suggesting, and I'm telling you that the remuneration they might be taking at the ministry is far, far lower. So if you put them at the government of machinery, the remuneration is far, far better.
All right.
And it is for the people who have helped you to, it's more like a political recompensation. Recompense them that you helped me to achieve or to have power, and where I am, I want to put you there. Now, for me, going forward on this matter, as they have said, if we can streamline and know the people, the job functions that has to be performed, things that are needed, then everybody will have that understanding. Because as the number is 998 today, if it comes tomorrow, people who condemned earlier that the number was going too high, if they don't speak or we don't speak against it today, I can tell you tomorrow we will find office of the president having about 2,000 staffers.
All right. So on that point,
and if we mark
will you say that the Presidential Office Act requires some amendment to maybe limit or put a ceiling on the number of people the president can appoint to help him do his work in his office?
You see, I'm not a believer in where you put ceiling. You see, when you put a ceiling, you tie the hands. It's an emerging economy. Things, gray areas will come that you will need people who will assist, right? But it has to be reasonable. It has to be objective. That is, put it against the value, the money that is going out of the purse. I'm one of the people who of the view when it comes to, this is a bit digression, but let me make it so that we can see. When it comes to Supreme Court, and people say we should put limit on the judges who go to Supreme Court, I always disagree. You know why? If you look at the job, we are not looking at the work that they do. They do appeals, they do
interpretation,
they do interpretation, and it is bulky. If you look at the average age, Supreme Court average age will be between 60 and 70. If you want, when you are that age, they don't even have research assistants. A lot of work, and if the panels do not sit together, you cannot. There's so much stress, and these are few numbers that we loaded them with the workload, everything, and we are saying that the few number that will join them, we say no, let's put a limit. You see, so you can't stifle the people. At the end of the day, you will not be doing them a good service.
Very well.
All I'm saying, let's look at the act. Let's be reasonable against what is being spent. If we leave it like this and say there is no law, there is nothing, I bet you tomorrow, in the near future, we'll have about 3,000.
So let me finally go to
your logic. According to your logic, it's all right for the Supreme Court to be bloated, but the presidency should not. No, you are saying it should be bloated. You are saying
he's saying he's not a believer in sealing or capping.
Yes, that's his argument. So he's saying leave the Supreme Court to have as many people as they want, but the presidency should not.
I think his argument really is about looking at the job, the job function and what is available.
But there's a lot of work at the presidency.
Very well.
The next time we'll have 3,000. Don't complain.
It will get to 3,000.
But I'm not complaining about 90.
Adaoud is my vice.
I'm not complaining about 998 at the moment.
Yes.
I'm not complaining.
All right.
I'm saying what is the number? Somebody should give me a number.
All right.
From Latvia.
Laban, I want you to.
Adaoud, my vice president.
Let me just say something.
Wait.
I think it's also good to make some reflective comments. I mean, you've been trying to bring back some comments that previous people made, even including Amidu, about how wasteful Mahama was and his staffers were too many. If there's no pedestal, the fact that there's been historical accounts of how bloated the portfolios have always been, and to think that persons who are today in high office actually did criticize, that alone should be enough basis to still question, because otherwise we are actually saying that those persons were not probably thinking about the size of government when they were criticizing the current that administration. I mean, that's rich, really.
Yeah.
You know?
All right. So, and I think in some of the criticisms, we have to look at it holistically, and even what we are doing here today. Because I remember even when John Kufuor was an opposition candidate, he had cause to lambast Rawlings for having a big government. He came and then his government was bigger. Yeah. He had to apologize because he said he didn't understand it. So I think we have to put everything in proper context. Exactly. But Honorable, I want to find out, the list has been presented to Parliament. What does the law say? What can Parliament do? Can Parliament ask that the list be trimmed down? What can they do? Or is just a formality? It doesn't matter. I mean, what can they do? What can you guys do?
Nothing.
Thank you very much. But just on the lightest note, is that an invitation to the president that you should come and apologize?
Oh, no. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, if that impression goes out, I'm sorry. Not at all.
Anyway, if you look at the Presidential Act of 2003, I guess.
1993.
Yes. Today, why am I adding either 1, 10 or?
Maybe you want to add a 2 to the
1993. I think there's nowhere that Parliament will have any right to trim down the number or something like that.
Really?
It's a requirement for us to know. It's more like something informative, transparency, so we know the people there and all that. But I don't think Parliament
would not have recourse to ask why they
could ask questions, but I don't think
there could be ask questions. Yeah, I think by Parliament knowing the people of Ghana know, so there could be political consequences. So the government is minded.
See, that's the problem. You know, Sydney has been talking about the efficiency of Parliament. It's just like this public accounts
because our time is a bit, you know, I know these are pet subjects, and if I leave you in Sydney, you go on and on.
Because this is not different from ghost
I'm sitting somewhere. I haven't said anything.
These are not ghost.
One person bring my name, then suddenly now I'm evil.
Okay.
And I haven't.
So Salam, what I'm saying is this. I mean, the whole business of governance is to make sure that we get our people the best, right? And so I'm not I mean, those who are fanatics, right? Because our thinking must first be that we get the best for Ghanaians. So when it comes to these things, I don't try to look at it from political lenses at all. Let us do it in such a manner that the average Ghanaian would not set his tongues wagging and all those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I would still say that probably we should look at the list very well, and because of the impressions it conveys out there, we must make people know exactly who constitutes the core personnel of the presidency.
Yes.
Okay. Otherwise, we are likely to just go and bandy the figures around 998. Okay. When some people are actually not, I mean, strictly speaking, staffers of the presidency. But if the twist given to it by Mr. Adaoud is anything to go by, then it actually puts it into sharp focus that we should look at our remuneration structure very well. Okay, because equal work for equal pay. And so if I'm in the ministry, and just by being in the ministry I'm going to get less, and so for me to make something more, I must just be sent to the presidency. then what are we doing to ourselves? Because I think that we should also see the presidency just as any other ministry, because after all, you have the chief director and all other civil servants there.
And it is.
Okay, and that's what it is. And so I don't see why my working at the presidency should put me in any better stead in terms of remuneration than some other person somewhere. If that trust is anything to go by,
more risk
so because of security. More about the pecs.
All right, so
yes.
so
we should look at it.
Yes. So if you look at the document talks about the fact that there are 27 presidential staffers at the office of the president. There are 9 ministers of state at post, as at December 2017, and the report also shows that there are a list of junior political appointees in the office of the president, totaling 256. And so what it means is that
probably this will be the core.
Yeah, so that's the core. So the rest of them, employees of public sector organizations assigned to the office of the president, civil servants at various classes: administrative, executive, clerical, records, secretarial, budget supply and material management, presidential household, department of parks and gardens, Ghana Health Service, accounting, data. So it goes on and on. So let me just take a few comments quickly. And Twitter, Awudie Bernard tweets at me and says, I like Aban submissions. Just Honorable Aban here. This is the kind of leaders we need in our country. Ghana first and not party first. Hashtag the big issue. K. Amofa tweets at me and it says, as a country and as people, it's time we reviewed the Presidential Act to specify key positions that every president needs to appoint. This, in my view, will help halt the political exploitation at the presidency. Hashtag a big issue. Kofi tweets and says, the size of MPP government is too big, but I agree with Sydney that there must be a definite number set by Parliament. In today's world that we have robots and mechatronics, we look at the waste we are creating and make it worse by going for loans to pay for the waste. All right, some other comments. I thought MPP, when in opposition, accused the Excellency former President John Mahama of being corrupt. They promised of protecting public purse. What do we see today? A huge, long, tall list of staffers. When you are outside the pitch, the reality is different. You always think it is feasible without considering the factors one has to deal with. Forgiving Accra. Evans is asking, why is he defending everything MPP? How can the list of presidential staffers be justified by him? Akufo-Addo's style of government is large numbers. Oh, Sydney, I can't think far. Sydney is a genius, but he never says it when this government moves a wrong foot. Isaac from Castle. That's assuming that this is wrong, right? Good morning, Salam, and your panelists. Please tell my Honorable Sydney that I'm not feeling his analysis yet. Let's call a spade a spade. Okay, there's no name to that. He says he's not feeling you yet, Sydney, which means you feel him later.
Like that
means you are the main man. The protector of the public purse, yet he has opened his hands wide for party people to fill the Flagstaff House, now Jubilee House. Samuel Senzawani. Good morning. I'm quite surprised about Sydney's submission. Emmanuel from Takrady. Sydney, you are very popular today. Some more are coming. I'm surprised Sydney is giving this kind of analysis this time. Did he speak like this during the last regime? Frank in Ho.
Somebody has set me up.
988 presidential staffers is just too much for an economy like Ghana. Is this the way president is going to protect the public purse? Good morning, Salom. Delano in Peduasi. Oh, so you are close to the Peduasi Lodge. All right. So very well. Let's move to the other discussion. I mean, we're racing against time, really.
So they are witch hunting me.
Yes. We'll call Martin Amidu on them.
It's not fair.
It's not fair at all. So that's what Sydney is saying. Let's move to the next discussion quickly. The matter is being. I saw
Adaudu texting feverishly when I was talking. I think he was.
So Adaudu
was engaging the serial callers.
Oh, he was texting himself.
Yeah, he was engaging the serial callers.
Maybe he's the one.
To pour in.
Right, so the people feel that today he's not being.
I'm saying that I don't have a number. Is 998 too large or too small? I don't know.
Maybe he did something to benchmark it against. we'll get PricewaterhouseCoopers to audit your phone if what CD is saying is anything to go by. All right, so the matter of double salaries and the whole discussion about you don't know your salaries and so you have top up here, in the end it will be rationalized when you're being paid your ex gratia. I mean, that's too much for the ordinary man to grasp. Now the controller is saying that no, we don't actually have an idea what happens in Parliament, because Parliament is paid by the parliamentary service. What we do is to pay MPs who double as ministers and ministers. So there's nothing, they don't actually talk to themselves because they are two different people. So the argument about controller should know this and getting it rationalized in the end, it's a no-no. Martin Amidu, the special prosecutor, has also come to say that for him it is a case of abuse of office, because when he was in office as Deputy Attorney General, at some point he was overpaid. He took it back and told them to take it from his salary. You have been lawyer for the people, quite a high profile job. You've been lawyer for the alleged double salary takers, and you've been to and fro at the CID headquarters.
His brief is rich.
Yeah, very soon. You know, very soon, if you're not careful, we will call you a legal luminary.
I'm sure
you are building to a legal luminary.
Given the kind of people he's representing, I'm not sure it would be wrong to call you a luminary. Luminary now. Yeah. So, what do the CID guys ask the people?
To be a legal Hercules?
And what do your people, or did your people tell them? What are they? What are they doing?
Salam, let me quickly react to the Controller and Accountant General. I'll come to this.
Okay.
Now, the Controller and Accountant General is saying that they only pay the ministers, MPs, and they are not in touch with Parliament.
Yeah, because Parliament pays itself.
The simple question I want you to find out from them is that do they have a letter written by Sektekpe, Minister of Finance, that they should do all deduction and reconcile before they pay? Do they have a letter? And who actually paid the arrest? Find out for yourself.
Okay, so
if they have a letter which instructed the Controller and Accountant General to do it, whether they have that.
Okay.
When I get a chance to talk, I'll answer that question
very well.
directly.
Yeah. So if now you see, this is how the system for us, the instruction I have has been. You see, when you are an MP, you go to Parliament. I believe parliamentary service pays you.
Yes.
Right. Now, if so, you belong to the legislature. Because our constitution has talked about the fusion of legislature and executive, and majority of our ministers should come from Parliament. You are appointed as a Minister of State. Now, when you are appointed as Minister of State, the executive pays you. It gives you a top up. Now, what the executive gives you is paid through Controller and Accountant General. Right. Before you are being paid the salary on account and the top up being given to you by Controller and Accountant General, as a parliamentarian, you don't know what is your salary. Your salary has not been determined. The law says that under you should be paid under Article 71. So until the President appoints a committee to look into your salary, allowances, emolument, you don't know what is your salary.
No, that is not true.
Oh,
No,
wait,
let him
Sydney, you don't know what you are entitled to be paid. What you will be paying, they will be paying to you. You are in the 7th Parliament of the 4th Republic now, right? So as a parliamentarian, what you will be paying, that will be a salary on account, will be the end point of what was taken in the 6th Parliament. So as at now, Honorable Aban sitting here, he doesn't know his salary. What he's being paid is the end point of the 6th Parliament. So that's what he's taking until the committee will now come and determine that you are entitled to this amount. And when the committee comes and says this is your salary allowances, you know, the president and some category of public servant, that's what it, that is when you actually know what is your salary. Now, because the system, they were paying them from parliamentary service, and controller also were giving them the top up. What they are saying as double salary is that because you took it from two sources for the services, and they are simply saying that I've been paid as an MP, I'm also being paid as a minister of state for the services that I'm rendering to the state. Now, if my salary is determined, I know my actual salary now. You put these two sources together, deduct my rent loan, my car loan, any loan that I have taken from any source. It could be a personal loan. When you deduct all this, then you now pay me what I'm due. So no 2 MP would even know how much they will have to be paid as the arrest. Because you don't know until it is determined. So this is what has been termed as double salary, because it was being taken from 2 different sources. And they are saying that no.
So since when has this practice been?
Yes. That is why it will be good to see from 1993 what has been the mode of payment of people who are MPs at the same time become ministers of state. What has been the mode? What has been the practice? So if you check, the issue now is that why is it that it is only from 2013 to 2016? Are they saying that within this period they have seen some anomaly? How about from 2001 to 2012? What has been the practice? Now the issue they are saying that is the police, that they are doing investigation. They found out that it's double salary, and they are saying, was there any communication? Because you see, when you are appointed as a minister, your details and everything, it's sent to the Office of Government Machinery, and that's where they top up. So necessarily you will not even fill forms because they have your details already in Parliament. They will just pick it and start giving you that top up. Now the issue is, if they were given communication and say that you have the opportunity to elect where you should be paid, that you will take it only from Parliament, that the top up should be brought to Parliament and added to your parliamentary salary.
You see, Pujoga, if for example, if you are an MP and minister, your salary certainly is bigger, but the money you take at the end of the month from the controller in this case is bigger than what a standalone minister is taking. So you are taking this bigger money from the controller in comparison with someone who is just a minister. And why will you want to be taking again from Parliament, knowing that your salary is bigger than your colleague minister who is a standalone minister without being an MP? You know, because you have an additional role. You get my point. You have an additional role. That is why the controller is paying you more than your colleague who doesn't have the MP role. And yet you will be taking from Parliament again, saying that in the end it should be rationalized.
No. You're not getting it. Let
me get it then.
You see, I work as a parliamentarian in the first place. So Parliament is paying me. Now, because I become a member of the executive for my services, government is saying that our executive will have to pay you a top up, right? And this, so controller is paying the top up and MPs are paying this.
But that's an impression I got from the controller.
That's not the way.
Wait. That is how, what they are investigating, they are saying it's
okay.
Now, if you were given opportunity, or you were told, or there was a communication that if you are being paid at controller, you cannot take from Parliament, or if you are being paid at Parliament, you cannot be paid at controller, Was there any communication to that effect? No.
No, there is.
I speak.
No,
Wait.
There is.
If there is, fine. As I work on instruction.
Yes.
So this is what we are saying, that this is what, and the salary has not been determined. So even if you are paying me from these two sources, right, you are paying me against my salary.
So you are comfortable taking it because you know that in the end it will be deducted from the ex gratia or the end of service benefit. Okay.
Exactly.
Let me come to Lawyer Aban, who is the MP.
Now let me just quickly a last one.
Okay.
Now you see what is being done now with the MP ministers now. The same thing is being done. You will be paid by Parliament, right, for being a minister. What controller will have to pay you as top up? Is being sent to Parliament for Parliament to disperse that. So the only difference now you see is that instead of controller who have paid it into a different account to you, it is sent to Parliament for Parliament to make that disbursement into the same account. So nothing much has changed. Are you getting it? So right. You see, still controller still sends the money for the ministers and deputy ministers of state. That's
well.
my insight.
So Lawyer Aban, I mean he's explained it. I don't know. You are not a minister yet. You are not a minister yet. We hope that someday you become a minister.
Definitely.
And the controller is spoken. Martin Amidu is also spoken. Do you think that there's indeed, from what you've gathered from your colleagues in Parliament, both your side and the minority side, people who have been in the House and have served as ministers before, do you get a sense that it's a practice which has always, been happening, or you think this particular one is different?
Thank you very much. If it's a practice that has been happening, if it is not good, it's not good, regardless of whether it has been happening. All right. Good. And so we cannot justify anything by saying that, it used to be the same in the past, so let us so do it. Now, let us draw the lines very well, because it appears we are, jumbling everything together.
Okay.
Right? Now, if we are talking about salaries, is it what comes monthly that we are talking about?
Yes.
Or it is something that comes at the end of the period when the committee, under Article 71 has been put together, and they have now determined what must actually have gone to the president and what must have actually gone to the MPs. Is that what we are talking about, or what? Because if you are talking about double salary, and it is something that is occurring periodically, from, let's say, month to month, there will be no justification for any MP to say that, I didn't know that I was not entitled to
my salaries.
No MP should say that, because after all, even though we say that it has not been determined,
you know how much you take
thankfully,
now.
Thankfully, the fact that it has not been determined, and the fact that we are using whatever was in place at
before.
the end of the previous parliament, we should know how much we take at the end of the month, as at now. So from January coming, or from January 2013, 2017,
since you got to parliament.
Yes, since we got to parliament. Coming. I don't think any MP should be in any confusion at all in his mind.
So in your case, you know how much you earn. So
exactly.
If it can't, and it's more than that, there's a need for, or you have to raise questions.
Exactly.
If it's lower than that, you certainly will have concerns.
Yeah. Exactly. And you see,
he earns about 15,000 a month.
And when you say,
more.
It's on the public record. Yes.
And when you say,
it's public record.
It's
public record.
It's public record.
How much is rent? We read it last week.
How much is rent?
But you see, all the car loan and all those sort of things. So let us go on. It's not even about. It's not even about the quantum now.
Okay.
That we are dealing with.
Yes.
But you see, if you are a minister, or we all start as MPs, and then if by stroke of luck you become a minister, the top up is not so huge.
Yes.
To make you think that if you are getting double your salary as a parliamentarian, you should not raise questions.
The top up is only about 2,000.
So let us say that the top up is about 2,000. So you expect that you, as a minister MP, you are going to get not more than 2,000 more
than your 15.
Than your colleagues MPs who have no other portfolio are taken. All right. So if it is that periodic one, then I would say that if you are an MP and then you have been made a minister, you opt either to even maintain your salary as an MP. And you forgo whatever addition there is, or
but that would be strange. But go ahead.
Or you then take from the executive this time round, channeled through the controller and accountant general. Okay, so if your colleagues MPs are taking 10,000 and you are giving let's say 1,000 in addition, you should know that you are getting 11,000 at the end of the month. If it comes and then you have 10,000, okay, and in addition to the 10,000 you have 11,000 too. Okay, so that it moves from there to 21,000, you should know definitely that you are taking double salary. Because this is not like some small addition.
Yes.
The variation is not so small that you will say, oh, this is insignificant. It is so huge that you should know, you should have, you should reasonably know that you are not entitled to it. And indeed, this is banking law. It's actually in banking law, and I've been teaching that for about 6 years. If you expect to have 10 cedis in your account, or they should pay you some 10 cedis, you go there and it is 20 cedis. Don't just say that because it is sitting in your account you should take it. In fact, if you take the 20 cedis, you will be seen to have stolen the 10
additional 10
cedis.
That's what it is. Okay, and so if that is what we are talking about, we should draw the lines from what happens at the end of the period where they say that, oh, because from the start your emolument and all those things had not been computed as required by Article 71. Okay, this has been the addition and all that, so you do not know. Okay, but if it is something that is periodic, then please, we should know.
Yeah. So what happens in your view? What happens to the argument that, I mean, what's the point really? Because no matter how much you pay me, in the end or at the end of the term, you can rationalize and take whatever I wasn't due to receive from the ex gratia and give me the balance.
That is too simplistic.
Really?
That is too simplistic way of going about it. Now, if you come out with this kind of argument, okay, at the end of the period, they do the ex gratia thing and all that. What about if it turns out that you are in the deficit, you are in the negative?
So
would you then
you
come
say
in?
you ask that you should pay.
Please, we are talking about no. Apart from the legality, we must also look at the morality of it. It's not. You see, maybe probably it's because we are doing some kind of criminal prosecution and other things. That's why we are trying to find justification for it. But the point is that if you know you are not entitled to, at that moment, you have a duty to say that
yes,
I'm not entitled to this. So take it back. After all, at the end of the period, if they have to give you your ex gratia, they will give it to you. You don't decide that you are borrowing some money, so at the end of the your ex gratia, you take it. Now, let me also go to I mean, in this whole discussion, you realize that we are trying to do, especially the NDC, they are trying to do some equalization. Look, if we try to do these things, we would destroy this country. I learned there's this thing going on that, okay, after all, some MPP ministers have also taken double rent payment. Oh, you have not heard that? I've heard that from
I was coming to that actually.
Okay, we have heard that from Samson here and all that. Let me explain quickly by telling you what happens. Now, you become an MP. Okay, the presumption is that everybody is coming from their respective constituencies to congregate in Accra. So they give you some bulk money to go and get accommodation, right? So,
and is that free money or that's loan? That's free money, right?
It's a loan.
Is it a loan?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a loan.
You don't think it's a loan?
It's an allowance of sorts.
It's an allowance of sorts.
Okay.
So it is given you. Now, when you have used that money, I mean, let us presume, I mean, because of how it is, let us presume that you don't have a house.
Yes, so everybody's coming from their constituency.
From their constituencies. So you go,
including the MP at Kole Klote or Klote Kole, where Parliament is.
Yes. So they give that money to you. You go get accommodation. right? You have paid the money to your landlord or whatever it is. Then 3 months, 4 months down the line, you are appointed a minister and given government bungalow. Okay, is Samsnahi, by his argument, saying that that person who has given that money to his landlord should now go and tell his landlord, in breach of his rent agreement, that, you see, I have now been made a minister, so you give me back my money and let me take it to Parliament, or let me take it to the government? Is that what he's saying? What about those who probably may have some property, maybe uncompleted, in Accra, and they said, okay, thank God I've become MP, I'm going to stay in Accra, let me quickly use this money they have given me to finish up some portion of my house, okay, and go and live in there. Right? Most likely, anybody who has something like that in
will
Accra
want to use the money
would
to
like to use that money to complete or to do some portion that he would find habitable.
That would be fitting of his new status.
And then he does that. 3 months, 4 months down the line, he's made a minister. Are you saying that that person should also go and say that, okay, I use it to do some roofing in my house and all that, and now that I've been made a minister, I should take
you take off the roof, go sell it,
and sell it. You know, I mean, this kind of argument from some of our colleagues is not. We are actually not dealing with the root of the matter. If we have a problem, let's solve it as a country. Let's stop this.
So how about, for example, you are an MP and you've been given that allowance. So whether you are made a minister or not, you are not entitled to a bungalow, because I mean the qualifications for being a member of minister, a member of parliament, per the law, I think are the same, because once you are qualified to be an MP, you are qualified to be a minister as well. So how about, because a place an MP lives should be quite befitting of a place a minister should live. So you don't get the accommodation or the bungalow again if you are appointed a minister. So you live where you've been living as an MP. Is that far-fetched?
Oh, I don't think that is far-fetched, but what the effect of what you're saying is that in that case, any MP who has been made a minister, just by reason of the fact that that rent allowance was given him, would not go into a ministerial bungalow.
Yes.
That's what it means. And if indeed, and because we are going to have 50%, at least, of all Parliament. Ministers appointed from Parliament, the likelihood is that if there are actually ministerial enclaves, ministerial enclave residential areas,
those places may not be occupied.
They may not be occupied. We are just looking at the realistic way of how things would go.
Public servant.
Okay. So look at this. The Constitution says more than 50% or majority of the ministers should come from Parliament. So now I don't know how much you take as rent allowance. Multiply that by 50% or more of the number of MPs in Parliament, and see how much money government spends on double accommodation, if you like. Because the bungalows are already there, so they've been paid for, they've been renovated, everything, and now they've been given money again before the appointment. So they've been given money again to go and rent. That's a lot of money. Appointment comes, now you leave that and go and occupy that place, whilst other maybe chief executives, other appointees of government could have been occupying those places to save the taxpayer some money.
To that extent, I agree with you. You understand? To that extent, I agree with you. But I was trying to draw the lines, okay, to say that the arguments are not the same. The situations are not the same. That was the focus of trying to draw the parallels between what Samsnahi was saying, okay, and what this whole double salary matter is all about.
Yes, how time flies.
Okay.
Yes, I'm enjoying this, but let me quickly go to.
He wants to have the last word. I know why.
Okay. So yes. It's interesting. I'm telling you, let me come back to you again quickly.
I'm fine. Let me hear him.
I'm conscious of the Bundle report, which is what is supposed to be, whose findings or proposals or recommendations of remuneration is what you guys are taking now. Pending what Nanado will do later in terms of his committee. Why is it difficult for a president to appoint the committee earlier in the administration, maybe around the time the transition committee is working, so that right from day one the MP knows his salary? Then we don't get these things. Why do they always wait till the last days of their stay in government before they appoint the committee? We saw the Chinrihese, we saw, and a whole lot of these. Bundle report, for example, finished its work around November 2016, just a month before election. So now a lot of rationalization and backdating and things will have to be done. Why don't we start off right from day one, so that MP knows this is how much I earn? If an extra money is coming from somewhere, then this argument about we don't know our salary wouldn't occur.
I take what you're saying as a suggestion more than a question, because I would also ask the same question. And so it's incumbent on the executive or the president to put this quickly. And if we think that we should maybe include it in the Presidential Transitional Act thing that came, so be it.
Yeah.
So that as soon as you are appointed as you are elected as president, and within the transitional period, you put together a team as quickly as possible, okay, to deal with it, right? If we are doing it that way, fine. But otherwise, I cannot answer why it happens that way.
So, all right. So Franklin.
So why is it that in an organized state and an organized civilized state, we actually even having a conversation about this? To be frank with you, that everybody who works and pays a tax knows how much he or she is receiving, and the tax is exacted as such. But the persons we are giving the taxes to prosecute the development,
they don't know how much.
They don't know how much. What kind of nonsense is this?
I think part of that is from the Constitution, because
it's not from the Constitution. It is not from the Constitution.
It should be common sense.
Charlie,
of course, it's common sense.
You are
even your garden boy, when you pay him, when the money doesn't reach at the end of the month, you come and tell him, Master Pacho, this is my wash short me.
You are there
what is
passing
this?
laws, right? Before the government comes into office, they have their vision. In fact, they pass their budget. They know how much they are expecting from taxes and all of that. The things they want to do with the taxes. Then yet, those who have to make the laws and actually prosecute development, who we actually pay, are saying that we have to allow them some time period to determine when they will be paid, and then somehow a committee has to be set up in order to determine at what point they have to get their salary, and sometimes backdate the salary as well, so that while they are collecting double pay on
they take back pay too.
Then later when we finally pay them, when they finally decide that they'll pay themselves, then they can give us, if we are lucky, if there's been an excess, they'll give it back to us. That's organized theft, the way I see it. Because in government, I'm not saying, but this is but it's organized.
Yes,
because you see,
if you look at the Ramadi report, I think it did quite some good job. It tried to, in order to solve all these, it tried to establish a salary structure for Article 71 public office holders, with clear and justifiable relativities. So, for example,
the question is that we are not talking about. That's not the issue. The issue is not about structuring salaries, which must be done by the way.
I mean, the point is that if you go by this structure, any point in time you come into office, you know how much you earn, because it's relativities. Once the president, once the president is determined, you take a percentage of what the president is determined to. So, for example, the next in line, the vice takes 90% of what the president takes, 70 and all that. But the MPs disagreed, and so it spawned a whole lot of discussion and controversy.
So, first of all, this is quite frankly silly to be having this conversation, and I'm submitting to you that the persons who are supposed to be the vanguards of rule of law, and for whom we actually pay, do not have an understanding of when it is that they have to be paid, right? So they can live like Arabian princes, and then decide that at the point when we're giving them that much, and at the point that a committee has been set up to now determine the emoluments, they can go and make submissions and say, well, we want 10%, we want 15%. That's what I'm saying is organized theft, because you see, what it is really is that these salaries are not in tandem with the economic
realities of our country.
Because these guys are taking, and I'm sorry, Honorable Aban, so for instance, Sydney, per capita income in the country is around $1,600,
something like that.
Right now, so these guys collect all these monies, and it's actually 4 or 5 times the per capita income in a month. They take more than the rest of the country. So by collecting bits and pieces around, by the time a committee is set up to come and rationalize their pay, they would have said, okay, but I know I owe this much. But this time around, instead of asking, that's how come they've been quarreling with the presidency. In fact, always making sure that they hold the gun to the presidency when these things are being discussed. That if you don't give us more money, we won't pass certain bills. And all this thing is organized. That's the way I see it.
Normally, there's no dissent.
There's no dissent, and yeah, both minority and majority will agree that Charlie, we have to show these people, even the senior minister's budget. I think it was a collusion between the majority not to give you the money, which is all good, by the way. My point is, I don't understand why I pay. You determine the taxes I should pay. If I don't pay, GRA officials will come after at me, right? And you make the laws, but you can't agree on what it is that ought to be done. And this whole business about parliament, it is not new. You recall when we, what's it called? Maybe it's not particularly related, but when our HIPIC status was established, and they announced that they were forgiving 80% of our debts. This was 2005. 2 weeks after that, Parliament announced a $20,000 loan for each MP and a $60 per day rent for themselves because someone has taken the debt, right? I mean, look, it's ridiculous. I don't get it.
Yes.
And by the way, the controller cannot say that there's no central point through which people should be paid. I mean, aren't we having a single treasury? We did a single treasury account for the reason that most government entities were doing their own things, and it's now important.
Right, so now you are delving. You are going into Sydney's area, but Sydney,
you have an area.
Sydney says, I mean,
financial engineer.
Franklin says he doesn't understand what's happening. Can you help us? The controlling accountant general is saying that they cannot take the blame because they just pay MPs co-ministers or ministers alone. They don't pay MPs alone. So there's no correspondence actually between the two sides.
Before Sydney comes in, I was shocked at the CID, the speed with which they were chasing this thing. I thought they would chase the fact that they don't receive their own salaries in time. They've never picked up the
I wish I knew some of the questions they were asked. Were you in the room there with them, or you can't share that?
No, I can't.
Okay,
but right. If you are receiving double salary, you should know. You've not won the jackpot.
You know,
so you've not hit the jackpot.
I've been trying to trace back to find out where the first comments came from. Anybody, any MP or minister, that they don't know how much they earn. I can't figure out who said it first, because whoever said it first and set this whole media wave of concern going is a liar. The person lied completely.
Okay.
Every minister knows how much they get paid because they are all on the IPPD system by the controller, and it's now an electronic payment voucher system. They get an alert every month that shows how much their gross is, what was deductions have been, their taxes, etc. They get that every single month. It comes to their phone or their email electronically.
Since when?
It has been going on ever since the electronic payment voucher system was put in place.
When you know exactly when?
It was last year sometime.
Okay.
It is in place. No, so nobody can come and say I don't know.
Is it consolidated?
No, but
why?
Why
don't they know?
Are you saying that the MPs don't know how much comes into their account every month?
No, what he's saying is that you are alerted.
Yes.
Yeah, but you get
an alert.
Your bank gives you a text alert.
No, this is an alert. This is an alert that comes directly from government payroll.
How many entities pay MPs? Yeah. Please, let's get that clear. How many entities pay MPs? Is it the controller?
There's only one.
That's a parliamentary service.
That's the parliamentary service. So let me explain to you. Let me explain to you. I was referring.
When you're a minister, controller pays.
Yes, and when controller pays you as a minister, you get an alert from the payment system, and you can go back and look at your history. Every single item that you have been paid for, you can scroll back as far as you want since you started earning that income. So it is very clear. Every minister knows how much is being paid. Every member of parliament gets paid from parliamentary service, and they have been given a passcode. Mr. Aban, tell me if I'm wrong. They have a passcode that enables them to go onto the system and figure out exactly how much they were paid this month. If they want to, they can set it up as an alert. Has been done, and it is there. So parliamentary service also informs all MPs. The difficulty is the in-between, the hybrids. All right? The difficulty is the hybrid. The hybrid is when you are both an MP and a minister. Everybody who is in the government structure, who is paid by the Controller and Accountant General, is paid on a scale. There is a civil service scale. That scale ranges from scale 68 at the bottom all the way through to 72 Mr. President. And there is a determined progressive amount plus allowances and everything. It is very, very clear. All right? So any MP who is saying they don't know what their salary is lying. And any minister who says he doesn't know is also lying. Where is the problem? The problem is when you have the hybrid. The hybrid is in between when you are both a minister and a member of parliament. And that one now resides with parliamentary service to pay. It doesn't go through the controller. The controller has asked them to take care of it. If you listen to Elizabeth Osei's interview, you will hear her say so very clearly. They have left that to parliamentary service to take care of. And that is also established.
Very well.
So the difficulty is this. There has to be paperwork, all right, between parliamentary service and Controller and Accountant General. There has to be paperwork. When that paperwork is not done on time or is not done properly, that is where you see the inconsistencies coming through. Because as far as controller is concerned, if they get the instruction, they will deal with it. However, the controller does make mistakes, and they do have problems with interfacing between subvented organizations and the key payroll. And Parliament happens to be one such subvented organization.
Very well. Thank you very much, Sidney.
So, at the end of the day, let no one come and try and muddy the waters with all kinds of other things else. There's a lot going wrong, and Parliament knows this and should have solved this problem a long time ago.
All right.
They should accept the responsibility. And there are people who are taking advantage of the loopholes and collecting the money twice. It's not double pay, it's duplicated pay.
Okay.
Two different things.
Okay.
So is
All right.
this systemic, which has to be looked at?
It is more than systemic.
Systemic failure.
It is more than systemic. It is thievery and fraud.
All right.
When somebody pays you twice,
on that note, I want to say thank you to my guests. The matter never gets discussed enough, and we think that more revelations may come later in the week or maybe next week. And just when the matter hits the stands again, you'll be sure you can trust us to bring it back to you. So my guests this afternoon, as you know, we're taking an early bow because we want to make way for the match between West Bromwich Albion and Liverpool, which comes up next. And the sports guys are just on my throat. So thank you so much, Kojoga Adaudu, NDC and lawyer for the alleged double salary takers. Lawyer Alex Aban, MP Gomoa West, and member, vice chair of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Sidney Kesley-Hayford, financial analyst and Occupy Ghana, and Franklin Kujo of Imani Africa. My name is Salam Adunu. Shows being produced by Kojo Ajiman, AJ Kwaku Sapon, and the main man himself, Fred Jabano, and